Hello, I'm meteorologist Ryan Leach, and this is the weather planning briefing for Sunday, November 17th. First up, just a quick look at what we're looking at for this week. Right now, we do have some snow going on in the mountains and a cold front that we're expecting to come through tonight. So, for Monday morning, you can expect some lingering impacts from some snow and even blowing snow in northwest Montana, and then just some general, mostly pass level, but also down into some of those mid-elevation ranges. So here on Monday, and then as we go throughout the week, just looking at some, low impact, near continuous rain and snow going throughout most of the week, and then Friday into next weekend is probably what we'll spend most of our time talking about because that looks like the next potential significant weather impact. All right, so for Wednesday through Friday, the precipitation, I just mentioned we were going to have a pretty active week weather-wise. Not a lot of impacts from it. We'll have, snow levels varying and stuff. But we're not looking at too much accumulation snow-wise. However, for the amount of moisture that we're going to be piling up, most of that will be to the west up here in the Idaho Panhandle, and it'll be kind of spilling over a little bit into Montana, especially in the Cabinet Mountain region. But some of those numbers are coming in over 2 inches for precipitation expected in 72 hours up in the mountains. And again, this is just sort of the mean of all the different forecast models we have, so an average, if you will. So yeah, a pretty active week, especially up in northwest Montana, where over that midweek period we're expecting to pick up about half an inch to an inch or more of rain over most of the area. And then our next system that's going to be coming in is for the weekend, and we've had a lot of uncertainty with this system. It looks like the colder air that's going to come in with it might be coming as late as Sunday, and recent trends in the models have shown it coming in as early as Friday. And so that's where most of our uncertainty comes from with this next system, is sort of the timing of the cooler air, which will have a big impact on how much precipitation we get and whether, of course, it falls as rain or snow. So what I've got up here is the 48-hour snowfall ending Sunday morning for the next week, and so that would cover Friday night and Saturday night and Sunday. And so what we're looking at here is like 6 to 8 inches, and this is a median or middle of the road forecast. 6 to 8 inches up in the mountains in Glacier Park and the Flathead National Forest and those areas along the Continental Divide, as well as up in the Missions, and then of course the northern Bitterroots and up to the Cabinets, also looking for some of that snow. And then over the weekend, again, a middle of the road forecast is looking at about 3 to 6 inches up in the Bitterroot Mountains. But I emphasize that there's a lot of uncertainty with this and the timing and the snow amounts because of those temperatures. And so I was going to show a range of forecasts. And here on the left, we have sort of the low end forecast. And that's coming in with, like in the Bitterroots, for example, up to 4 inches. And so you can see, still the mountains are expected to pick up a few inches of snow over the weekend no matter what, but not a lot going on down in the lower elevations and where we have a lot of our roadways. Now, some of the stuff that we've been seeing from the deterministic models, we call them, that put out one forecast, is matching up more with something on the higher end of the forecast, which is what we have here on the right. And this is, this is probably not going to happen. It's not going to happen everywhere. This is just for any given point. This is sort of a high-end forecast for that point. But it's still interesting, to see that we're getting up around 30 inches or more along the Continental Divide for a high-end forecast there. And this is sort of the ideal scenario where we have some cold Arctic air that comes down east of the Continental Divide, and we have some good moisture coming up with an atmospheric river out of the southwest, and the two just collide in an area. So depending on where they collide and how far in that cold air comes and when it comes in is going to depend on what's going to really control how much snow we get and where we get it. But yeah, I mean, we're still looking at, a high-end forecast is, over an inch, maybe 2 or 3 inches in Missoula over the weekend. Kalispell, high-end forecast for them is 6 inches. Again, I'll point out the low end is no snow if we end up not getting the cold air and it just stays as rain the whole time. So that's something that we're going to be watching pretty close, is this potential for a pretty high impact snow event. But it's all really contingent on the snow levels. And again, this would be at the earliest right now. It looks like it'd be coming in Friday, but could be coming in as late as Sunday. I will say if we do start to see some of that earlier timing, if it looks like we're going to get that colder air coming in Friday, then we're going to be veering more towards that middle of the road solution like this or the high end solution. Whereas if the if the cold air comes in a little bit later, closer to Sunday, then we'll be looking at more towards this middle of the road to the low end solution over here. And so that's what we're looking at for those forecasts. So again, keeping our eyes open for a potential pretty big snowstorm next weekend. And then for the long-term outlooks, for the 6 to 10 day for the precipitation, probably going to continue with our above average precipitation like we have been seeing here recently. It looks like that's going to continue. But what is kind of starting to change is we're starting to see some changes here in the air temperatures for looking at some of this potential cooler air coming down that I was talking about on that last slide. That's starting to show up in some of these outlooks as well. And if we stay cool and wet, that generally equals snow this time of year. So that's something to keep an eye on too. If you have plans, especially kind of coming up around Thanksgiving for travel or anything like that. It is looking like that we're going to need to pay attention to the details of that forecast to figure out what your impacts will be. And so just to wrap up, we're looking at a continued active wet weather with mountain snow this week, closely watching potential heavy snow event this weekend, and we're most likely to continue with that above average precipitation. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back Thursday with another recording.